Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea Premier League preview. As Chelsea out to take on Liverpool, who are, of course, very much so struggling with form, especially at home at Anfield, and which is exactly where we're taking them on tomorrow evening, with the very late kickoff of 8:15. But we're going to discuss all of that. We're going to discuss, obviously, the main problem at Chelsea, not scoring goals. You know, how can we fix that problem? We're going to discuss where is Kai Havertz? Has he been swallowed up by the planet Earth? Because where the hell is he? And we're going to maybe touch on a little bit of the report that has come out that Erling Haaland is apparently not interested in joining Chelsea. We will give our thoughts on whether we believe that those reports to be true or not, and if they are true, why we think that might be. But stick around for all of that. Of course, as you can see on screen, I am not by myself. I am joined by the legend himself, Mr. Monster CFC. Bro, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Obviously, big game tomorrow. We've got to get a win. That's all I can say. We got to get a win.
We really do need to get that win. I mean, we were in a similar situation ahead of the Manchester United game, if you think about it, and we didn't get that win. And if, in all honesty, it just makes us, makes tomorrow's game even more of a must-win game. Like, we just absolutely have to get the dub. Like, we can't, as much as it's great not losing, and a draw tomorrow, a draw at Anfield is never a bad result. But in the current constellation of the top four race, and I know there's still after this even 11 games to play, and 11 games is 33 points, right? It's a lot of points to play for. But with the constellation in the top four, and in and around the top four, we just need to get in there. It's a little bit like how it was last season. We got in there from the start, and we kind of just never fell out of it, and we just kind of kept going. And you don't want to be in the position, especially when it comes to the latter stages of it. You don't want to be in the chasing role, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. We have to win because, if we had beaten Man United, we would have gone in automatically in the top four, and we would have also, gained some ground on both United and Leicester. Yeah. We did gain a little bit of ground on Leicester, only a point. Close it down to, I think, 5 points now, is it?
I think so.
But also, it was getting away from the likes of Everton and all those guys. But we didn't necessarily do that, and Aston Villa as well. And unfortunately, now if Aston Villa and Everton win their two outstanding games, which probably is not going to happen, then they'll go on top of us. They will climb us, and they'll go ahead of us, and that's a shame because we did cancel out those two outstanding games with the run we went on when we were winning some games against Newcastle and those guys. But now we've gone on a little drawing streak again.
Exactly. I mean, the Manchester United one, as much as it's disappointing, and of course we would have preferred to win. At the end of the day, the more problematic result really was the Southampton draw, and that just really shouldn't have happened. Yeah, you can accept a draw against Manchester United, and maybe if we didn't have the Southampton draw, maybe we could even accept a draw with Liverpool. But then there is Everton, who of course is the game after, coming next Monday, and as much as they're only Everton in terms of name, not as big as Manchester United and Liverpool, you could argue that in particular in comparison to Liverpool, they're on form at least, going to be a tougher opponent and a tougher test. And, that's going to be very difficult as well. So we're just in a tough run of games. Of course, obviously, you just mentioned the wins before that. Well and good. But, of course, those were lesser teams, let's be honest. So that's why Tammy always calls this run of games like Hell's Gate. Like, it really is. There's no other league in the world where you can have a, game consecutive like we do at the moment. Plus, obviously, Atletico Madrid thrown in there as well. Like, it just came at the worst time. But then at the same time, other than if you play all these games in, say, autumn, when is there a good time? Because in January, it's so congested as well. It doesn't really make a difference whether you throw in Atletico in there or not. But there is a lot to discuss. I will get to this comment by Flyer straight away, pretty much. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this right now, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. But on the road to 10K subscribers, smash that like button. And of course, check out Monster's channel, to which the link is down in the description. Just click his ad, subscribe to him, and Lewis should be joining us once his stream is done as well. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to him as well. But Thomas Tuchel's press conference today, it wasn't the most interesting of press conferences in comparison to others he's given since joining. The only real injury news we had is Thiago Silva is back in full training now, but not quite yet match fit enough to be involved in the squad. Tomorrow might possibly be involved against Everton, but we'll have to wait and see. But hey, AC Hive AR hive, whatever. Like, we're not in dire need of that right now. Like, our problem is scoring goals, not conceding goals. I mean, we're 9 games in on a Tuchel, and we've only conceded 2. Like, it's really not bad. Like, the defensive record really isn't the issue here. But obviously, you and myself, whether it was on my stream or on Lewis's stream, actually have touched on Tammy Abraham a little bit in the past. But Thomas Tuchel spoke about him today and said, it's not necessarily that he did anything wrong. I just can only pick 18 squad players and outfield players in the match day squad. And if everyone's pretty much fit, then obviously I will need to leave some people out. When it's Emerson, no one, cares at all. There's not. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, no one cares. I think part of the issue is that I've said this a million times. What it is Chelsea fans, and rightfully so. Their love and infatuation with academy graduates at times, or just favorite players in general. Everyone wants. The thing is, you can't fit everyone in this team, unfortunately. Some players are going to get left out on some days, and other players are not. It's just the way it is. Like you said, so you can't fit everyone in this team, innit? But Tammy should probably be back in the next match day anyway. So yeah.
That's it. Like, he should probably be back, and that's the kind of the debate that's going on at the moment, because he has the highest conversion rate of any of our strikers. He has a higher goal, per minute ratio without penalties than the likes of Salah and Kane and all these different players. Obviously, it only paints half the picture. I get that, but it's still you wouldn't expect that, and especially opposition fans and Tammy haters wouldn't expect that. As much as it's not the full picture, I totally agree. And that doesn't mean he's a better player than those, but it still means he's better than some people give him credit for. And he's, other than in the very big games, pretty much a goal guarantee at times. In the big games, no. We've learned that. But, in the average game, he's kind of a goal guarantee. And sometimes I do ask myself the question a little bit. Obviously, Tuchel said he's kind of unlucky at the moment. Even his touch and whatever in training is not quite on it at the moment. And, he needs to find that again, basically, before he can be involved. But I do sometimes question it. Yeah, Tammy has had some poor performances, but every time it was taken off at half-time then. Giroud was equally as bad against Man United in the first half, wasn't taken off. Giroud was equally as bad against Atletico in the first half and wasn't taken off. I don't really understand why that is, especially in terms of pressing. Tammy's miles ahead of Oliver Giroud just because of the pace.
I think what it is. I think what it is with Tammy, the difference between Tammy and Giroud is Giroud, although he can have a bad game, has that clinical edge where he can just pop up after, during a terrible game, and he can give you a goal, similar to how, not the same way, but like how Bruno does for Man United. Bruno will have stinkers, but then pop up with a goal or assist. And Giroud it will give you that more than Tammy Abraham would. We saw it against Atletico. Giroud wasn't having the best game, and then he pulled out an overhead kick. Drogba used to do that a lot for Chelsea. I can give you an example of against Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final, the season we won it, the home game. Drogba was having an absolute stinker, was diving all over the pitch, was literally, sleeping on the ground throughout the game. Every time they touched him, he went to the floor. And all of a sudden, he popped up with a goal. So I think Giroud is a bit of that. With Tammy doesn't necessarily give you that. I know we say he's got a better goal ratio or things like that, but it doesn't necessarily look like it. Do you know what I mean? And Giroud scores, to me, he scores more important goals against, more important, a lot of important opposition. If he did it last season after post-lockdown, and he's done it this season as well, where he was out of the team for a long time, and all of a sudden he came back. He scored against Leeds. He scored against he scored quite a good amount of important goals this season, isn't it?
He did, but then there's also like the Tammy game, for example, against West Ham, when he had a dreadful game and in the end scored 2 goals, without which I wouldn't have been surprised at all just before Christmas had we then bottled that 1-0 lead and drew 1-all, say. While he got us 2 late goals somehow, wasn't particularly spectacular goals, and half of them he didn't even know how he got there himself, but he did. And I know, like, we just slightly disagree on this point. I don't think Giroud is more clinical than Tammy. Giroud is more likely to get you the outrageous goal, like against Atletico, or have the wonder game, like he did against Sevilla. Tammy will barely ever have a game like that. But I think on average, he's still more likely to get us a goal than Giroud is, in my opinion. And that's where people just disagree. That's where the whole disagreement comes from.
I'm not. Do you know what it is? I'm not sure, because with I feel like with Tammy plays a lot more minutes than Giroud does, doesn't it?
Sure.
Hence why he's going to get more goals. I don't know. I feel like
More
Giroud,
goals, yeah, but the conversion rate doesn't have anything to do with how many minutes you play.
The conversion rate, maybe. I just from what I get the stats, but from what I can see between the two, Giroud looks more clinical than Tammy is. He looks it. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me. I don't know. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me, man.
Yeah, like I get it. Like, and you're definitely not the only person that sees it that way. I mean, my personal opinion is that neither of them are good enough for Chelsea to be long term in terms of good enough to take us to a Premier League title, to a Champions League title. Neither of them are. And obviously, every now and again, Tuchel has to make decisions. Like every now and again, he will leave Tammy out. Every now and again, he will leave Giroud out. Like Frank Lampard left Giroud out many times, especially at the start of last season. But even at the start of this season, like sometimes wasn't even in the squad. And last season even picked Batshuayi over him at times on the bench. But still, the top goal scorer. Sorry,
you talk about last season.
Yeah, last season.
What I think with the situation with last season was Tammy picked up that ankle issue. So that was kind of why you started to see Batshuayi get game time, because he never really got to fully recover from his ankle injury, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
He was Lampard was kind of, I don't know, he just was kind of forced to play Tammy through the injury. Do you know, if you remember? That's why you kind of seen at times Batshuayi getting over him. It was more of an injury thing. I don't think it was had to do anything with form.
Yeah, no, I'm more meant, to be honest, that Batshuayi made the bench over Giroud sometimes when Tammy was the guaranteed starter. But yeah, it's a similar situation now. And Tuchel obviously said we have a kind of a fourth number 9 or a third number 9, if you don't count Werner as it, in Kai Havertz, which is fair enough. And Kai is probably somewhat similar to Tammy in a lot of aspects, similar pace, similar height, arguably better in the air and better on the ball. But then I'm like, this is all great, but then please play Kai there, because this is one of the things that I've been craving for. And Giroud having 11 goals is all well and good. Tammy still has one more, but Giroud has 4 in one game. And that kind of, it's a bit like the Son and Harry Kane stats. I mean, they picked like 4 each against Southampton, like in terms of assists and goals.
Although you say he's got 4 in one game, you could say Tammy's played a lot more games than Giroud.
This is no debate at all. This is no debate at all. And you are definitely right about that. Although it's been a long time since Tammy had a consecutive run of games. Like it's been a long time, like months. Even the last few weeks under Lampard, that wasn't happening anymore. So there is different ways of looking at it. But what we know for a fact is that he's somewhat struggling at the moment. Tuchel even confirmed that, not just in games, but also in training. And that's obviously an issue. And to some extent, part of why we're not scoring goals. Whether that's just Tammy in itself, but also one of our main strikers isn't getting goals. And I touched on us only having conceded 2 goals in the 9 games under Tuchel so far. Brilliant. But we've also only scored 10. And that, of course, is also a little bit of an issue. It's better than 2, mind you, obviously, but it's still not great. In 9 games to score 10 goals, it's not exactly a brilliant record with the squad we have, with the talent we have, with what is expected of us, right? And we need to start fixing that issue. And it's the biggest challenge that Thomas Tuchel has at the moment. Yeah, of course, securing up the back, it's all well and good. But if we get 0-0 draw after 0-0 draw, we ain't making top 4. So we need to start scoring goals. And we need to find a solution to that problem at some point. Jester here in the chat just a minute ago. By the way, guys, if you want a badge like that as well, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it basically stops you from having to use the super chat, because I actually see your message all the time. Become a member underneath. That's the join button underneath. Like I said, subscribe to Monster, subscribe to Lewis, who is here already, but hasn't turned his camera on yet, so he will be with us in just a second. But just as I said, the biggest change Thomas Tuchel has to make, or can make, is to stop playing Mason Mount in creative positions and play him as a 6. I don't even necessarily disagree with that. In terms of, I would love to see Mason Mount as a 6. I said this under Frank Lampard already, but not in the system we play right now. I don't really think Mount should be a 6 in a 3-4-2-1 system. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily even make sense. Why would he be more suited to it in a 4-2-3-1, say, than he is in a 3-4-2-1. I don't really know, but it's just what my gut is telling me. I don't really know. What do you think about that? Well, what do you think about Mount as a 6 in the current system?
Mount is not a 6. It's not going to work.
No, he's not a 6. It's Kovacic, to be fair.
Yeah. If we're being honest, next season, I don't really. If Tuchel gets his way in a transfer market, and then he ends up buying another 6, and he plays these 2 6s with a 10, then you might not see you might not see as much of Mount, Cover, and Jorginho as you're seeing them right now. And I know that sounds harsh, but as good as Mount's work rate is, what he's necessarily required to do in the 10 role is not necessarily the best, or he's not doing it to the standard that is expected of him. I'm not talking about his work rate and things like that. I'm just talking about him creating for the guys in front of him. Do you get what I mean? And going forward, none of our midfielders are playing good enough. They're not doing good enough. I don't think they necessarily have, or not yet anyway. With Mount, he's something he could end up learning because he's still young as well. But he doesn't necessarily at the moment have that quality or ability to play the right balls in behind a defense, or do you know what I mean? Or even, if we're talking about him taking shots, he doesn't do it consistently enough. But none of our midfielders are. The only person we feel that could bring something is Kai Havertz, we've not really seen anything of right now.
In ages. Yeah.
I
mean, I think part of the reason why Mount doesn't shoot more is because he plays the right 10 and not the left 10. If he was on the left side, I think he would shoot a lot more than he does. That's just natural in my opinion. Like if you're on your stronger foot more often, you would shoot more. Or if he was in the middle
and behind.
Oh no, that's without a doubt. I think everyone, even if you rate Mason Mount extremely highly, and I do, like it would be silly to deny the fact that his passing in the final third should be better. But there's also no debating that his work rate, his will to whether it's going to a tackle or whatever else is so high that I think he could do a job as a second 6. Obviously, with the current squad that we have, probably not because we don't have a proper sitter. But if we had a proper sitter next to him, I think Mount could be a decent second 6. Not in the top games, but in our average game against the average Premier League opponent that we have, which most of them sit quite deep, I think then he could work as a 6 because it's not too dissimilar to playing an 8, if that makes sense. Whether it's a midfield 2 or a midfield 3, doesn't really matter. The second 6, the less defensive 6, plays a bit like an 8 anyway. And I certainly think he's capable of that. But let me just get to Mr. Lewis, Carefree Lewis G, who has just joined the party, obviously. Bro, how are you, first of all? And secondly, do you have anything to weigh in here? Didn't even necessarily intend to go towards that, but just as put it in the chat saying the first thing Tuchel can do to get us scoring more goals is stop playing Mount in one of the creative roles, but play him as a 6 instead. What do you think about that, especially in the current system? Obviously, this was something that people asked for, and we even saw once or twice towards the end of Frank Lampard's reign, but especially in this 3 at the back midfield 2 system. Do you think Mount as a 6 is even a shout to be considered, or should we just ignore that?
Not as a lone 6 for me, but
no, not as a lone 6.
If you were to play him in a pivot, like as a base idea, it's not really the worst idea in the world. What I'm thinking of, Mason Mount seems a lot better the deeper that you play him, and his attributes also amount really well to that. So I wouldn't be too far against it. Has to be with a leader next to him, like that destroyer type next to him anyway, which is still the profile that we need to get as a DM. But as an option in a pivot, not the worst idea. Like I'm warming to it. I like it.
Yeah,
I can't see it, man. I can't see it.
It's
what do you think? For a second,
because it works.
Yeah, because Chester said in the comment here, and to be honest, like I said, maybe not in this system, but to be honest, it makes a fair shout because we play a back 3. Our double 6 isn't really a double 6. It's more of a double 8, but not an attacking 8 like Frank played it. But because we have the 3 behind them, our 6s don't really act like 6s. That's why the Kovacic-Kante pairing can work. It doesn't always work, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it can work. If they were both proper 6s, then they wouldn't be playing together. So it is somewhat of a shout to be made because we have a back 3 behind them. Neither of the 6s need to play like proper 6s, and Mount can certainly do that, in my opinion.
Yes, I don't see Mount being disciplined enough to necessarily sit in that midfield, because you kind of require that a little bit of the two. Although one does drive forward a bit more than the other, I don't see him doing that. I'm not sure about I know he's all right, he's good pressing, but we're talking about defensive work. Do you know what I mean? When you move further back from the final third, is Mount going to be as effective and disciplined sitting in that midfield? I can't see it. Maybe it could be something he could end up developing, but as of right now, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
saw Lampard try it already. It didn't work.
Did it not? Because obviously it wasn't in a double six.
When it against Leicester? I think it was against Leicester, innit?
Played it against Fulham after we changed it second half. Obviously they were down to 10. I get that, but still,
we were dominated.
No, like when him and Kovacic played the last 20 minutes, we weren't dominated.
Fulham absolutely played us off at the park. Like we
not the last
later on, but it was, like I said, it wasn't effective. Like we struggled to even do anything in that game with 10 men Fulham. And then against Leicester,
I agree.
Against Leicester, we were shocking in that midfield was shocking against Leicester. It's not his game. I think we'll be asking too much of him.
I agree, but that was in a back four though, not in a back three. Hence why it's a little bit different. But for sure. And also, I would have never suggested it in a game against Leicester, or even tomorrow against Liverpool, which may be why we shouldn't be talking about it so much, because we are playing Liverpool tomorrow. But the one case I wanted to make is when we played Man City after restart last season, we played a midfield three of Kante, Mount, and Barkley. And there was a flat midfield three. They were kind of all sixes, all three of them. None of them were eights, because we played very defensive and on the break. So it's not a double six, but it's still, he acted similar to how a six with a back three behind them would in that game, in my opinion, and he had a very good game in terms of discipline, particularly.
In that game, I feel like it was a 6 and 2 8s in Barkley.
Don't you think they were flat, like a flat three?
I feel like it was 2 8s, but you never. I don't know. I feel like it was 2 8s because they were still They were kind of. I remember they were going assisting the wings as well, innit? But I don't know.
But doesn't Kovacic do that now as well in the current system, where it's push up into a 10 role, trying to influence the final third play, pushing out wide to help the wing back out? I feel like it's not too different from what Kovacic does for us at the moment. And I'm not even saying
the reason why Kovacic can do that, because of his defensive ability and also his ball carrying ability, which is really good as well. Which something that Mount's ball carrying ability, it's okay, but it's not to that level. And his defensive ability, I know we talk about the press, but press is completely different from actually defending, and that is a discipline in its own right. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Like I said, it could be something that he develops, but as of right now, I just don't see it.
That is fair. I think against very much so like extremely deep oppositions, when even our sixes are required to do a lot of the pressing. For example, probably like the Burnley game is probably the best example for it, when Kovacic and Jorginho were extremely aggressive. I think in a game like that, Mount could do really well in that role, but not on a. I probably tend to agree with Monster in the grand scheme of things, not on a regular basis, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But to get away from just talking about Mason Mount, if because we touched on that just now. Is anyone else getting feedback?
Yeah, I think that was Lewis, but you must have turned it off. Yeah,
was that me? Is that my mic? My
Let me speak again.
My
no, it's good now. It's good now. It's all good. We still need to find a way to score more goals. We still absolutely have to find a way. And before discussing how us three think we need to maybe adapt things, I want to ask, where on earth is Kai Havertz? Obviously, I can't remember his Twitter name, but something Scout said today that apparently Tuchel gave Kai time away for like also mental health reasons. Not necessarily. I don't know how good of a source he is, in all honesty. I haven't followed him long enough to really judge. But it's all well and good. But then why is he on the bench and not being used? I don't get it. Like if that's the situation, then I would put him on the bench either. And I think and I've said this in the last two streams that I did already. The fact that we've had 9 games on the Tuchel so far, and other than changing Tammy and Giroud around, we haven't really changed anything in the front three, but keep saying we need to score more goals is weird to me. Like, we're not changing how the front three play, other than, okay, Spurs we did, because obviously Man was a false nine in that. But other than that, the idea of the front three was the same in every game, and we're not scoring, and I don't get it. Do you have an explanation for it, Lewis? And obviously, I know we've discussed it before, but maybe you've had an enlightening. Who knows? And then I'll go to Monster for it.
I'm not sure. I feel like the problem has been, I think I said it a few days ago as well, I think the problem is the freedom that the players have in the final third, where maybe they don't really know how to make the situation for themselves from a certain point. Because I understand that was a big part of Tuchel talking about his style of play when he first joined us, and he was saying, I want to get you to the final third, and then once you get to the final third, it's on you to put the ball into the back of the net. Maybe the players just adapting to that level of freedom. That's what I think it is. But I only think that because it's the only thing that makes sense. Other than that, we haven't been clinical for years. So to try and figure it out is easier said than done, because we've had multiple players in multiple different systems just come here and not be clinical. Maybe we just don't have clinical players in general, because that's the only consistent factor, that we just haven't been clinical for ages, regardless whoever we bring in. Maybe it's the personnel. Maybe it's partly the system as well. But I don't think it's anything specific by itself, because if it was an isolated problem, we probably would have already isolated it by now. There's definitely a key number of problems as to why we're in this situation.
That is true. That is true. I do want to say, though, because yes, we have had a problem with lack of clinicalness. I'm not even sure if clinicalness is a word. I'm going to make it one then. For years, but it wasn't ever really consistently as bad as scoring 10 goals in 9 games. And that is almost a different level of problem with scoring goals than we've had in years. Like, yeah, we've had periods, and you could call this is a period, and at some point it will get better, but we need to get out of this period in some shape or form. And I think if you don't change how we play in the front three and it's not really working, then I don't understand why that's happening. But what are your thoughts on that, Monster? Do you think Kai could be a solution to this, or how would you try to fix that? Or is it just a case of just give them time? All of our forwards are just not in form, and that's the only reason for it. And if they were, we'd be doing just fine.
Sorry, what was the question? Can you repeat that? I was just reading something. Well, go on.
That's fine. Just how would you change the how we play in the final third to fix it? Because, is Kai Havertz just a simple solution? Obviously, he hasn't always been, but then he's also barely at all played anything other than an 8. Under Lampard, in 9 times out of 10, when he did played in an 8 role, not in a final third role. So is he just that solution, or how do we get out of this slump of not scoring?
I know some people would say it's an easy solution of just put Kai Havertz in there. I don't think it's as easy as that. I think my solution would be, I got to get an extra body in there, in terms of I got to take out someone from the back 3, switch back to a back 4, and then push a body in there forward. That's the only way we can try to overwhelm teams in that manner, innit? As for Kai Havertz, maybe, I'm just not sure. Like, I feel like we've tried almost everything barring Kai Havertz, so everyone's had their chance to do something. No one really can. I feel like, Kai Havertz is the last one left to see whether he can do something. But my solution would be to switch to a back 4 and get an extra body forward, if you get what I mean. That's what I feel would be the best solution to it, because I just feel like maybe the lack of that being that extra body might be the issue. It's like when you look at us, when they get the ball, there's not enough bodies in the box. If you look at it properly, Chelsea don't have whenever we're on attack, you look in the box, they don't have enough players in there. And that could be due to the fact that we have 3 at the back and then 2 holding 6s or whatever you want to call them, innit? That could be the issue. So I feel like maybe we need to switch to a back 4.
Yeah, I do see that. The problem is, I also understand why Tuchel wouldn't, in this run of games, out of nowhere change from a back 3, because it might be too dangerous in terms of losing our defensive solidity. And maybe this is not the time to do it. So we kind of need to find a solution within the same rough shape of a back 3 at least, and then try to start scoring more goals from there. And you're right. Kai is probably the only one, but I guess Pulisic hasn't, I don't think, started a game under, I know he did against Barnsley, but not a league or Champions League game under Thomas Tuchel either. And I don't know, like the fact that we give Ollie this much time and, you know, he scored, how many goals has he scored under Tuchel? One? Two. He scored when he came on for Tammy, when Tammy got injured early in the game. And then he scored against Atletico. So it's not like he scored like loads and loads and loads of goals either. Neither has Timo Werner, neither have any of the other ones. But some are given consistent chances to still keep like, almost as if there is more hope that they will at some point click than there is for others. And that's why I don't really understand. And I agree with you. We probably need, and you know, I've said this from day one. I was, to be honest, slightly surprised that it went for a back three against Burnley, against Wolves. I somewhat expected it, but ever since then, it surprised me for a few games, and then it just worked so well defensively that I never expected him to change it again, quite frankly. But it's probably the most disappointing for me since Tuchel took over that we keep playing a back three. I'm not personally a fan of a back three, but we need to find a solution regardless. We can't just run around saying, oh, we need to stick to the same formation, but it means we don't score. We need to find something. And I want to see Tuchel try something. If it's not trying the back four, I want to see him play a false nine. I want to see him do something outrageous like Tammy keeps suggesting is playing a 9.5 position. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, just do something.
I agree.
Exactly. Lewis, what about you? Do you think you just need to do something now? Because doing the same thing all over again, it's just, you know, well, what's the saying? Like the definition of insanity. Or whatever.
The same thing over and over and over again.
And to be honest, that's what we've been doing for the last 9 games, other than Spurs.
What, in terms of playing 5 at the back?
No, in terms of playing the same shape of front three. Because I think even with the 3 at the back, you can score a lot of goals. I mean, Dortmund at times play a back 3 even now. And they score goals left, right, and centre. Of course, they've got better players, you could argue, in the final third. But still, just playing a back 3 is not the only reason why you don't score goals.
It is, but the back 8 all really pick themselves, if we're being honest. The only difference is maybe in the wing-back positions, Chilwell or Alonso, James or Hudson-Odoi. Other than that, like, the other positions all really fill themselves, which is why it's probably hard to interchange the front 3. And to be honest, wherever front 3 we played, this barely worked. What formation would you want to see in that case? If you want to see us stick with 3 at the back, but change up the front 3?
I mean, I've been almost like preaching this for a couple of weeks now. I would love to at least try it. Obviously, how can I say whether it will definitely work? Neither am I there in training to see how it works, nor have I seen it in a game to see how it works. But from my perspective, unless we change the back 4, the simplest solution, and even though it means dropping Mount, is probably playing Kai as a false 9, mix of a false 9, real 9 and 10, which I guess is what a false 9 is. Werner off to his left and Pulisic off to his right, and Hudson-Odoi as a right wing back. I know that's very aggressive and maybe not ideal for, say, Liverpool. But if we stick to a back 3, that's probably what I like to see. If you want to keep Mount in there instead of Pulisic, fine. Probably will somehow work as well. But I still want to see a false 9 in the middle that can, because sometimes our issue, I think, is we don't get the ball to the front 3 in a good enough position. Not always, but the only positions we do is kind of going back to the Lampard days when we just get it in wide areas and then we cut it back. And then our front 3, none of them seem to read the game well enough to get on the end of it. Or the cross precise.
I think part of the problem of Chelsea is that we don't have balance in that midfield. And that's the problem. There's no real balance in our midfield. There's no balance with Mount in there. There was, even when Mount didn't, who played for Wolves against Wolves in our midfield? It was
Havertz and
Jorginho. Did Havertz start that game?
Yeah, Havertz started left 10, yeah, weirdly.
If anything, wasn't Havertz more of a centre forward in that match? Because I saw Werner on the left for the most part. The 2-0, right?
No, the Wolves game where we drew.
Yeah. 0-0. It was first game.
Yeah. It was Giroud in the middle. It was Giroud, my bad.
Yeah, Werner didn't start that game, I don't think.
Sorry, I was thinking the Liverpool reverse fixture. My bad.
Sure.
Yeah, check that, because I feel like Werner did start, but I also feel like he don't, because I certainly...
Werner didn't start the Wolves match.
No, and I think it was Havertz and Ziyech behind Giroud.
I don't even think Werner was brought off the bench.
It was Havertz, Ziyech, and Giroud, yeah.
Exactly, and Havertz was the left 10 in that.
there was no balance in that. Like, there's just no balance in our midfield, and some Chelsea are gonna have at the end of summer. We've got to find a way to deal with that balance. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but yeah, there's just no balance.
I think, to be honest, that's kind of where I come from with playing this false nine, because then Kai can drop in as a proper 10. Because having wide 10s is very different to having a central 10. A wide 10 will never, on a consistent basis, drop in to make it a midfield 3, which provides more balance in terms of getting the ball from defense to attack. And Mount tries it, and that's why even in that specific game you mentioned, when Mount came on, we had the most balance we had in all of that game. We're still defensively solid, but we're more threatening than we were in the entire rest of that game before Mount came on. And I think Havertz playing in the middle and dropping between a number 9 role where he can bring some height into it and some aerial ability, plus dropping deeper as a 10 to then spread the balls to Werner and whoever plays as the right forward to make the runs in behind. I think that's probably, in the system, my best solution. Again, I don't know. Tammy keeps saying play Werner as a 9, Havertz as a 9.5, and then Mount with them. It's a shout to be made, I guess. But for none of these things, we know how it will work out. And that's why I keep craving that we see at least something different tried.
Yes, we do have to try something different, because we've tried a lot already. And if it's not working, you've got to find something different, right? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It only makes sense to try something different. So I don't know that at this point in time, I'm just confused. The last person to try out is obviously Havertz. I'm confused as to why Pulisic has suddenly gone dead. I'm confused as to why Ziyech has suddenly gone dead. I'm confused as to why Werner doesn't even freaking have a good touch. I'm just confused as to why Kovacic and Mount can't make a simple final pass in behind when the opportunity presents itself. They can't do that either. It's just crazy what's going on at Chelsea and how, in a way, bad all these guys are when it comes to creating chances to score goals. All of them. Do you know what I mean? The only person we have left to give a goal is Kai Havertz.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm not quite sure where this Kante as a false 9 thing in the chat has come from, but I kind of rate it.
When Lampard told him to get in the box for the headers against Arsenal.
Oh, yeah, true. And Rowan said, what formation did we use in the 17-game unbeaten run? I mean, it was 9 times out of 10 a 4-3-3. Yeah, exactly. But it's a little bit like now. Obviously, we scored more, but in the big games, we still kept getting draws after draws. So it's no different to now, really.
It's
not
plus players
go on.
Ziyech was, 100%. Yeah. Before he got injured, players were in a good place, innit? Now it seems like a lot of them have lost confidence, so we've got to find that confidence back in it.
Yeah, no, we do, and like you said, Havertz is probably the last one we haven't really tried. So I think we have to. I don't care at this point. I don't care anymore who it is. Like, people tell me, but he hasn't played in this long, and he won't have his best game. Like, if we just throw him in against the big opposition. But my argument for this is, well, how will he ever get to being fully sharp again without games? So you need to give him games for him to ever get there, because just training won't ever do that. And this would be an argument that I would concede as a fair point if the front three we kept using would be scoring. But because they're not scoring either, Havertz can't exactly be any worse now, can he? Like, what's the worst he can do? Not score? Like, and what? He still is the guy with the biggest ability and potential. So getting him on form will probably have the biggest effect on everyone around him in terms of making everyone else around him score more as well, in my opinion. Plus Christian Pulisic. But Pulisic is a little bit different in terms of his injury issues are a bit of a different situation as with Kai Havertz. Obviously, not just the actual injuries, but also that calf tightness, which he was left out for, for 1 or 2 games. So it's a weird one. But Lewis, do you agree with that? At some point, you just need to throw him in, because how will he get that fitness? Like Flyer said here, but there are people ahead of Havertz in terms of fitness, sure, but how will he get it without playing?
That's the thing, because I don't really know where we try and build his sharpness from other than various substitute appearances, which is more or less the problem in itself, because we don't really know who else in the front three we can trust. Maybe it is just a big risk that we need to make. But Tuchel likes those sorts of risks. He likes doing things out of the ordinary and catching you off guard. So who's to say he doesn't go for Havertz in the false nine? Like, I've been advocating for that for a while. I just don't really know where we start implementing it in. But if nobody else is working, if there's no other options left for us to try and pursue, why not go Havertz for false nine? If it don't work, just shrug your shoulders in the press conference and say, well, nothing else worked. I need to try and find a front three that can get goals. It looks like Kai Havertz and false nine is the only other available option I have right now. So, yeah, fitness is going to be a problem. Maybe you can't play the full 90 minutes. I understand that. Yeah. But I want to see it because you've seen Tammy play in the middle. It don't work. We've seen Werner play in the middle. It don't work. We've seen Giroud play in the middle, and it can work, but he can't do it consistently and not over a full 90 minutes consistently because he's 34 years of age. You have to be a bit more careful with him.
His pressing up day was shocking.
That's the thing. Giroud is like at 34 years of age, you play to his strengths or you just get what you get with Olivier Giroud. So you need to go for Kai Havertz in this sort of option. I think it's a great idea. I can't speak too much on it because I want to see it in front of my own eyes. But from the stuff I've seen at Leverkusen, I'm all for it, please. I think it's a very underrated option.
For sure. I mean, Amandas has put in the chat something. We need a physical presence in midfield and someone that can shoot from far, like Kessie, Milinkovic, Savic, etc. That is all well and good, but that doesn't solve our issue right now. You know, that is a conversation we can have when the summer transfer window is open, or when this season is over. But that doesn't solve our issues now. You saying that there's no criticism at you, but I'm saying it doesn't help us tomorrow. Like that doesn't fix our issues for tomorrow, if that makes sense. And obviously, you know, Monster and, you know, me and Monster touched on it already before you joined, Lewis. The press conference was a bit weird today anyway.
Apparently the questions were dodgy again, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they were dodgy. All they asked about was Klopp. I mean, they asked the injury news. He gave us that.
They're really trying to build this Klopp Tuchel rivalry. That's what they're trying to do, because half the Liverpool-Chelsea stories were just pinching on the Klopp and Lampard thing because there's a little spat they had on the touchline. Now this is going to be the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. 100%. But I guess with that in mind, that we touched on press conference and who's out, which is just Thiago Silva, thankfully. Because Tammy Abraham did have a little bit of an ankle issue and didn't do the whole training session yesterday, but should be in training today, is what Tuchel said. Sounds to me like he will be left out again, to be honest, out of the squad. And he will then he realized, okay, if I just leave him out and say it's not because of an injury, the media go at me, so I just leave a little hint in there that he might be injured, then no one asks me about it, and it's fine. And that's probably the logic here. But I guess we should probably get to a mix of a predicted 11 as well as the team that we would like to see. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time now trying to discuss how we solve the final third issue. But, you know, at the end of the day, we don't just play a final third football game here. We'll play a whole pitch football game here, and we'll play against a Liverpool that haven't been in great form at home. Obviously, they've lost their last 4 home games, which is dreadful for them, considering they were apparently, according to the fans, about to be our unbeaten run at Stamford Bridge. But, you know, as Lewis always says, we're Charity FC. So if they beat anyone, it's probably us. But or if they at least not lose against anybody, it's probably us. So let's try and pick that team that we think Tuchel will pick, and we think that is, you know, best suited to at least get the 3 points at Anfield. It's almost as always when I get through this predicted 11, the back 4, so goalkeeper plus back 3, doesn't really need any discussion. We know it's going to be Mendy, Rudiger, Christensen, and Azpilicueta while Thiago Silva is out. Unless we change to a back 4, but I think in terms of predicted 11, no one is expecting that, right? Monster, are you?
We're talking about who's going to start, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Thiago Silva's out. I want to where I think there's going to be a huge dilemma is who starts over Reece James and Callum Hudson-Odoi, because from what I understand, Callum Hudson-Odoi is good.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah.
So that's going to be where it gets confusing. I expect the same back 3.
So you think we'll stick to a back 3, yeah? Just to clarify.
I think we'll stick to a back 3. That's what I expect.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to change it against Liverpool of all teams. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're going to change it, it's going to be against a lesser opponent. That's where you experiment.
Agreed.
I expect Chilwell to start over Marcus Alonso.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense. Also, I feel like Kante is probably going to play again with Kovacic. Now the issue is the other issue is obviously the front three in front of him, innit? And that's going to beg the question: is he going to play Havertz or is he going to play? Obviously, I feel like Werner's going to play. I feel like Mount probably will play. And the question then becomes: is it going to be Giroud or is it going to be Havertz? I feel like Giroud will probably play. I feel like something's going on behind the scenes where they're saying, let's give Havertz as much time as he needs. Let's just let him properly adjust to England and things like that. They're giving him time. Like I've always said it, that I don't expect too much of Havertz this season. I expect more next season and the upper season because he's young. He's 21 years old. I mean, you shouldn't, as a team, no matter how much you bought a player for, you shouldn't be relying on a 21-year-old for everything. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to rely on him. I think that's where Chelsea went wrong, is that we've been relying on these youngsters to do so much. Hence why the Mason Mounts get the criticism he gets, in it. Not saying it's deserved, but we're relying on these youngsters too much. So I can see Giroud starting and Havertz coming on at a certain point.
Hey, if he at least comes on at a certain point with at least, like, say, 20, 25, 30 minutes to go, I'm okay with that. What I don't like is either him coming on in the 87th minute like it did against Atletico, or not coming on at all like it was against Manchester United. Then I'm like, well, how will he ever get to settle in England and settle in the Premier League if you're not giving him more than 5 minutes? Like, how can that ever happen? Training is all well and good, but I would presume at least that he's not going to struggle too much, in training. Because if he's struggling too much in training, then fair enough. But then just tell us if that makes sense. I don't know why my camera went blurry. There we are. Monster needs to head off in just a second, so we'll get to you about this, Lewis, in just a minute. But Monster, compared to what you just said in terms of your predicted 11, what would you change about that in terms of what you would start before I let you
go? What I would change, it's a bit of a scary one because it's Liverpool. I think the only thing I might change is Giroud for Havertz. But even that, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, do we throw Havertz in against Liverpool as well, being that he hasn't even played that long? So it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? I think the only thing I would probably change is Havertz for Giroud. But it's just so weird. I don't know. At this point, I'm like you guys. I'm confused on who to start now because nothing seems to be working at this in terms of going forward. Nothing seems to be working at this moment in time. So it's just a bit of a weird, sticky situation Chelsea are in.
Yeah, there's definitely a case to be made that, hey, it's not working. Almost whoever we play, and then stick Giroud up top, who is most likely to come up with a random goal at least. Like Atletico Madrid. There is a case to be made for that strategy almost. Make sure you keep a clean sheet and then hope one of them will somehow nick a goal. Fair enough. If that's what Tuchel feels is necessary at the moment, I can't really dispute it too much. Lewis and I will continue discussing on this in just a second. First, let me say goodbye to Monster. Massively appreciate you hopping on, bro. Like I said, everybody, go and subscribe to Monster. His link is right down in the description below. Just click his ad, subscribe to him. Brilliant content over there. I'm sure you'll see me over there at some point in the near future as well. Definitely subscribe to him. Again, appreciate you coming on. And
I'm sorry. Can I just say I'm sorry I couldn't stay on for longer, man. I just booked so many things in a row. Gone from Lewis to you to now I've got to do a video now. I apologize. I have to leave so early, man. Next time I'll try as hard as I can to stay as long as I can. You know what I mean? Yeah, big ups to everyone though. Hey, make sure you smash the like button and hit the subscribe button, man. Don't just come here and freeload people. Come on. Help the brother Laurenz out, man.
Exactly. There you go. Take care, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
Big up, man.
Mute. I was on mute anyway. Didn't even hear none of that. Can't be arsed.
But ladies and gentlemen, we still have 240 people roughly watching. Let's hope not too many people leave. Hey, we're still on here. We're still on here. So be sure to stick around. Smash the subscription button. Subscribe to Lewis as well. Of course, his link is down in the description as well. Smash the like button. I don't think we've hit 100 likes yet. So go and do that right now. Smash the like button. Do that because, like I told you before, YouTube enjoys likes on videos. So just go do that. It helps me out, pushes these videos out to more people. And of course, if you fancy it, use the super chat function if you want to make sure to read your chat message. And become a member if you fancy that as well. Why not? Why not? Let's do that. But Lewis, obviously, yes, I let Monster talk through everything because I knew he had to head off at 5-6. But in terms of everything that Monster said, obviously the goalkeeper, the back three, they will all say the same. Let's be honest. And then obviously Monster made an interesting case. Did he say Hudson-Odoi and Chilwell, or did he say Reece James? I can't even remember. But what would you pick? What would you pick?
I'm gonna hope he said Reece James because I probably would go for Reece James. I think it's going to be a very back and forth match, so we're going to need defensive solidity in there. So I would rather go for Reece James in this sort of match. Makes more sense for me. Chilwell as well, and I was going to say because he played the last game, he might not play this one, but Alonso played Southampton and the game against Atletico Madrid. So I've got no reason to think why Chilwell can't play both games either. So I'd rather go for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point to make. I'm just not sure about the right wing backs, but obviously I know Jared Jester is very much so against this whole Hudson-Odoi thing. He says he's not anywhere near good enough defensively with Mane and Robertson. But people need to understand that Mane and Robertson are in everything but their best form. And all this stream has basically been about so far is we need to start scoring more goals. And realistically, who are we more likely to score goals with? Hudson-Odoi at right wing back or Reece James at right wing back? I know my answer. And this isn't any criticism to Reece James, but this is just some more praise to Callum Hudson-Odoi. And I don't think, with our back three, with our form, I don't think whether it's Reece James or Hudson-Odoi will be the biggest difference in terms of whether Liverpool get a goal or not.
Nah, it's just Liverpool will always be able to make a lot of chances in a game like this. It's about whether they're clinical, same way with us, but I'd rather minimize the chances they can get. So I'd rather go for defensive solidity and Reece James. And plus, I want Reece James to actually boss the field on Anfield and show Trent levels. So Reece James has to start for me.
So that is fair enough. And on the other side, Ben Chilwell, yeah, because I would definitely pick Ben because I thought he had a good game against Manchester United. I think
call me an agenda merchant all you want, but I'm still on the anyone but Alonso train. It is what it is. Hate me all you want. I don't trust him. I'm sorry. I just don't trust him. Like, if you can hide his deficiencies in a game that suits that, cool. I can back it for 90 minutes. The more consistently you play him and the tougher the opposition, the more questions I'm going to start having. So, no.
Exactly. And, I mean, just I know you have a bit of an agenda going, fair enough, but I mean, he would have 5 if people just knew where to be in the box, whether it's Werner knowing how to be at the far post or whether it's Giroud getting on the end of his cross against Manchester United. That's not Hudson-Odoi's fault. He whips in beautiful crosses pretty much every time he plays, just no one gets to the end of them. That ain't his fault. That absolutely ain't his fault. And you can make the same
way as well. We all know, and this is what we can all agree on, his final form is on the left-hand side, regardless of how good he is right now. So I'll respect what he's done on the right-hand side because he's been great. But same way, I want him at his best. His best is on the left-hand side.
For sure. I disagree with this. I think Alonso is the guy that goes backwards all the time until he's in the final third. If he gets the ball in the final third, different story. I agree with you. But we need to get there in the first place. And I think when we play Alonso, we struggle more to get into the final third, in my opinion. You might disagree, but
too safe. Like, Alonso's too risky. And if anything, his quality and his technique doesn't back the amount of risks that he takes as well. So I would rather have a safe Ben Chilwell who is going to retain possession than Alonso who's going to do something risky and 9 times out of 10 lose the ball while doing it. At one point, Chilwell was dribbling towards our goal against United. Chilwell also had about 5 or 6 brilliant runs when we were transitioning, and nobody found him with the pass. So you got to take.
He didn't lose the ball doing it. So I'd rather him run backwards and keep the ball than Alonso losing the ball. I'd rather just keep the ball.
My final thing is, did he lose the ball? That's the way I always look at it. If you're gonna criticize a player's bit of play, if he lost the ball at the end of it, fine. If he didn't lose the ball, at the very least, I'm not complaining because the play is still in our hands.
He's not Pedro. Remember that when Pedro always tried to run with the ball everywhere, ran so close to our own goal and then lost it in the worst positions that possible. Fuming. And just sure, almost. You're right, but not Callum's fault that the guy didn't get on the end of it. The almost doesn't count. Goes for Werner, not for Callum. In terms of assists, 9 times out of 10. If the cross is good, the crosser is not to blame for the goal not being scored, if that makes sense. Did you see the assist to Hakim? Yeah, exactly. Our biggest chance against Manchester United was provided by Ben Chilwell. So, it's that for me. But then we come to the midfield. Obviously, Monster seemed very set on. He thinks it's Kovacic and Kante again. A lot of praise has gone to that partnership after the Manchester United game. A lot of praise that I didn't necessarily agree with. People call me a Kante hater, whatever else. Call me whatever you want. I have my opinions. and until I see them proven wrong, I won't change those opinions. That's how opinions
Same
work.
with the Alonso argument. I hear that. No
Exactly.
flip in here.
Exactly. And you and I, we actually touched on this, I think, with Tammy after the United game. We were already discussing who do we start against Liverpool? Because it's a tricky one, because there is a case to be made for both sides. In terms of being press resistant against Liverpool's press, it's brilliant to have Jorginho and Kovacic. In terms of us being aggressive and them hitting us on a quick counter break, that's when it's great to have Kante in there. So who do you pick?
I'd go for Jorginho and Kovacic just so we keep possession more, because there's going to be a massive pressing system. Kante will be good for the breakup play, but he'll also lose the ball too much. So it's about whether you care about that or not for me. But I'd still go Jorginho and Kovacic.
Yeah, I think I might as well. Obviously, Deno, massively appreciate the donation, saying, do you think Havertz could be the answer to our final third issues? When he's played at number 10, he's actually done okay. Most of his goal contributions have come there. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we touched on this actually in a lot of depth earlier. Obviously, you must have missed it. Appreciate the donation. But yeah, just quickly to run through it again. Yes, that's what we think. My goal would be play him as a false 9, then he can play as a mix of a 9 to be in the box and play people like Werner and Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi or Mount in, but he can also drop in to feature as a 10 that links everything up together. And yeah, I fully agree that would probably be the best shout. And obviously, Flyer said Tuchel wants to play Kante in every game. I don't know if that's necessarily true. 100%. His press conference a couple of weeks ago sounded exactly like that. But he also hasn't stuck to it. Mind you, against Atletico Madrid, it wasn't Kante that started. Of course, Liverpool don't play like Atletico Madrid, but it didn't get much bigger than Atletico, and Kante was 100% fit. So you can't tell me that Kante will play every game no matter what, because he didn't against Atletico. And that to me was a sign that for the time being, Kante won't necessarily play every game. Obviously, 1, 2, 3s, 1, 2, 3 Gs. I appreciate your thoughts, but don't spam. I'm going to have to time you out because spamming ain't accepted. But Lewis, obviously, you explained it just then, and I'm not 100% sure which one to pick. Try to convince me. I know you gave your reasons, but try to convince me some more.
For what? Jorginho and Kovacic?
Exactly.
No, I just think we're going to do better on the ball. We'll dominate possession better, and we'll be better progressively with the pair of them. Kante is good, but then it turns into two individuals instead of a midfield pairing. And that's where we might have a bit of a problem, because Kante will have a lot more turnovers than the pair of them will combined. So, no, like I'm cool with it. I don't mind it to get them warmed up for the Atletico second leg, but nah, I want Jovic.
Burnley 1-0 up against Leicester, by the way, just 5 minutes in, so that's brilliant.
Oh, I'm putting that in the background.
Exactly, there you go. That is what I like to see. I mean, a lot of people saying Kante, Kovacic, people saying better chemistry between the two. Presumably, that is talking about Jovic together. Jester saying Jovic over Novicic, which is what he calls Kante and Kovacic playing together. There is arguments to be made both ways. You know, there just is. 100% I agree with you. On the ball, we're definitely better. But if we're here on the break, do I trust it more with Kante? Probably also yes. But I keep saying what I keep saying, and that's why I would prefer Kovacic and Jorginho, because I think when we play a back three, we don't need Kante. I believe that, but I do think, in terms of predicted 11, I do think it will be Kante and Kovacic again. I think so. Because I think Tuchel will have been very happy with them two against Manchester United, and will, rather than blame them two for not bringing the ball high up the pitch, he will blame the two tens more for it, of not dropping deep enough to help it more.
I think Kante and Kovacic will be all right, but that's when we face a team that's going to properly attack us and make us sit deep. But that works for Atletico because we'll have something to protect. Liverpool, we won't have something to protect. We still have to go there and get the victory, which is why I think we need to go there a bit more on the front foot, which is why I prefer Jovic.
Yeah, no, it is fair. Like I said, I would prefer it as well, but I don't think that's what Tuchel will pick. My pick at right wing back would be Hudson-Odoi, because I think we just need to get over the goal issues. We just absolutely need to, and I think we're good enough, and Liverpool are scared enough at the moment that we can make them adapt. And the more aggressive we are, the more we annihilate and nullify the threats of Robertson and Mane. Rather than being scared of them and hindering ourselves in defence, I think it would be more beneficial to the game overall for us to go with. If you could, for this one, I might even say Reece James at right centre back. Won't happen, but I might even make the case for it, and us be the aggressive one, and us forcing Mane to drop back rather than the other way around, if that makes sense. But in terms of the front three, I think we've both agreed what we'd like to see. It's Havertz, because people said he can't play full 90. I agree with you, said that. I think agreed, but how can you ever get to playing a full 90 without playing a 60 or 70 minutes first? So that needs to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, but I just don't know what game it could be. Like, it could easily be more an Everton or a Leeds United one that's a bit less important.
Yeah, you're not. But is Everton less important? Everton are in significantly better form than Liverpool.
I know, but Liverpool are a point behind us. They win that game, they go ahead of us. And then we have to worry about Everton as well on top.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Like, going by that logic, you probably shouldn't start him against either of them, if that makes sense.
I know, which is why it's hard to figure out which game to start him in, because there's a question for them all.
For sure. And what Flyer said here, 100%. 100%. That's when we went all out. That's why I want to start aggressive, get a goal, and then we can still bring Kante on and be solid against that. That's my idea, if that makes sense. I just don't know what he will pick for the front three. I'm scared that he will just pick the same thing again, and it will annoy me. No, I say the same thing. Werner will 100% start, because against Liverpool, it would be silly not to start him. So Liverpool is one of those opponents where Werner is probably suited to it, especially as their left inside forward, right? So that's probably Werner's best suited type of opposition. So Werner definitely starts. I don't think, as much as we criticize Mount's creative play and final third output, I don't think, especially with the intensity that Liverpool's show in every game, whether they're in good or bad form, I don't think we can take them on without Mount. So I think those two are set. I think it just depends on who starts up front. Tammy, if he's fit, Giroud, Havertz. I would go Havertz, but I agree with Monster. I think it will be Giroud. I think he will pick Giroud.
Yes. Yeah, probably Giroud. Either him or it will be Kai Havertz in the false nine. It'll be one, or maybe Werner, because they'll give him pockets of space in behind that he could deal with. But those are the only three for me. I don't think it'll be Tammy still.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And to be honest, Liverpool might be one of the ones where, no, because Liverpool leave gaps, and then it will come to the situation again where we'll play a through ball down the side, whether it ends up being to Callum, whether it ends up being to Mason or Werner, and then they have the pace to get there, and then they are in a position to play a cutback, but Giroud is too slow to get there for the cutback. And that will trigger me again, because that's happened so many times in the last few games that it just pisses me off every time. Definitely against United, and even happened against Atletico once. That earlier in the game, that Giroud didn't have the pace to get there in time for the
that's the thing. There's problems for most of them.
Yeah,
like no one's the perfect answer, but maybe Havertz is the right call for a game like this, only because Tuchel would take that sort of a risk.
Yeah, I mean, our team said he might play Pulisic, Kai, Werner. There's no chance he drops Mount for this one. No chance. Maybe he plays Kai, but
yeah,
Pulisic
Mount will play this one. This is perfectly suited to Mason.
Yeah, no, you can't drop Mount for this one. Unless you play him in a 6, but again, not against Liverpool. Unless he changes the formation completely. And I'm still kind of hoping for that day when I'm sat here saying, oh, we changed to a back 4. Bloody finally. I'm still waiting for that day to come, and I'm still excited for that.
Both, my guy.
Exactly. It's a deep one. And the last topic I think we should get to before we obviously at the very last get to score predictions. Have you seen the Erling Haaland report, bro?
Nah, but what's happened today?
Basically, the Bild in Germany have come out and said Erling Haaland is interested in 6 clubs, and Chelsea aren't one of those 6 clubs.
Yeah, I'm sure they said the same thing about Havertz too. And look where Havertz ended up. So I don't care too much about that. We know what's going to happen. Like, if the club have the balls for it, they will go and get him. I've always said that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing.
Wait, how many clubs did he say he was interested in anyway?
Sorry?
How many clubs did he say he was interested in anyway?
6.
6 clubs. And what were the clubs?
Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, and one more. I can't remember who. Probably
Except for Manchester City, they're all broke boys. So I don't care too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because the build...
That's why we can go now, because most of those clubs can't afford him. And if they don't make top 4, he might have to start warming up to the idea of playing for Thomas Tuchel. So I'm willing to let time rise on this.
I don't understand this comment. I know there is a difference between Sportbild, but you said the same word twice. It's sports build, not build. Sports build is quite reliable. I see what you're saying with this. And CF Bayern, his Twitter handle. The thing is, he's dreadful when it comes to news from England, but he's usually good when it comes to news from the Bundesliga. I don't remember the very start of the Havertz and Werner rumors. I don't 100% remember, but I know towards the end of it, he was one of the most reliable ones. But again, I don't know about the start of it. So it's a tough one to judge. I don't think it's true. Didn't Raiola respond? No, Raiola's tweet that we saw was from December last year. It was probably about the Pogba stuff. When Raiola basically tweeted Sportsbuild are crap, but that was a few months ago. So it's like, first of all, like Jester said, money talks, but realistically, United will go after him. Will United spend enough to convince Dortmund? I don't know, but Dortmund are in a precarious position in terms of finance. They need money, and unless we throw significantly more at them, it's one thing. But Haaland still needs to agree to come to us. I don't believe the reports. Let me just put it out there like that. I don't think that Haaland isn't interested in us, and maybe this was true at some point. Maybe when Frank was here, even though he obviously said once he wanted to play, wish he could have played with Frank. But in terms of the last few months under Frank, obviously maybe he didn't see quite that progress, and maybe that is just old information that the build have released now. But I don't see how under Tuchel, with the squad we have, it's not up there for him. I don't see it. Maybe I'm just a little bit biased because I am a Chelsea fan, but personally, I don't believe it to be true. What do you think, Lee?
I don't believe it too much either. Like, we're in the middle point at the end of the season between both transfer windows, and I think it's just trying to create rumors and everything. That's all I think it is. Just new talk, new clicks and everything like that. But it's anything serious, and it's nothing concrete either. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I don't really buy it. I think there's still every chance we can get him. Of course, it's not the news that we wanted to hear, but it's still not the worst news in the world. Before we get to our score predictions now, ladies and gentlemen, which we'll just get through in just a second, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We still have over 200 people watching. Big ups to yourselves. Smash that like button. Let me just check how many likes we actually have right now. We have 112, which is good. You hit the 100. I'm proud of you guys. But make sure let's hit that 150 likes right now. Come on, there's still 200 people watching. That just means another 50 of you, not even, another 32 of you need to go down below. 38, actually. I can't do math today. Just go down below, smash the like button, get us to at least 150, and we go from there. Haaland swap for Giroud. I don't think Dortmund would be very interested in that, to be honest. But, Haaland for Tammy, we could maybe get Dortmund involved in that, quite frankly, because they do want younger players that aren't on the craziest amount of wages and do need a middle step in their careers. And frankly, that's what Dortmund are. But score prediction, another opportunity wasted. Dean Kavanagh is not 100% a score prediction I sadly agree with. My total honest score prediction before I get to yours, Lewis, is another 0-0. That's my total honest score prediction.
2 0-0s in a row. God help our continent.
Yeah. That's sadly what I fear. But obviously my heart tells me it's gonna be like a 2-1, and it's gonna be a slightly more open game than we saw against Man United.
I'm going 1-0 Chelsea. I don't know from who. I can't claim that for the life of me, but I do think Chelsea can go there and get a result. I think if it's any time, it'll be now. But same way, we are also Charity FC. We could easily go there, give Adrian a clean sheet and lose. So,
I know. Just for information to everybody, Alisson is back. Fabinho should be back. Apparently, he trained 5 out of the last 6 sessions, and Diogo Jota had a stomach issue yesterday, which is why he didn't train. He's over his injury, so they're not 100% sure yet whether he will be fit for the game. Obviously, a stomach issue sometimes takes a couple of days for you to get fully over and for you to have energy again. So Alisson is back, Fabinho is back, but they still have obviously loads of people out, including like Henderson, Van Dijk, Gomez. And we just definitely can get at that back 4. Like Robertson, Trent, brilliant players. But in particular, Trent, also Robertson, they have their defensive frailties. Kabak, not a great player. Let's see where Fabinho plays. Does he play as a centre-back next to Kabak? Or does he play in midfield? We'll see. But it's a tough one. But like I said, Lewis said 1-0. I'm going to say 2-1. But my honest prediction in terms of what my head says is probably another dead 0-0, which I don't really want to see, even though it won't be a dreadful result at Anfield and they don't overtake us at least. But we need to start getting wins. We need to start getting wins because Everton won't be any easier, quite frankly. But I think, guys, we're going to leave it here. We've been going for an hour and 12 minutes. Obviously, Monster at the start, then Lewis joined us, then Monster had to leave, and we're here with Lewis. We have all the legends up in here. Like I said already, subscribe to Monster, but of course, subscribe to Lewis. Help him reach 25,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Just hit his @ in the description below and subscribe to me. The road to 10K is still very much so happening. So subscribe. The quicker you get me there, like I keep saying, the sooner I will stop bothering you about it. So just subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. If you fancy it, hit the notification bell button as well so you get notified whenever I go live. But yeah, smash the like button. Really do appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in. Become a member if you fancy with the join button underneath. But I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Let's hope we get a good result tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.